Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. Top U.S. military leaders are going before the Senate today to face questions about what exactly happened in Afghanistan and what led to the deaths of 13 U.S. service members. Democrat leaders back to negotiating after losing a Senate vote. They have to find another way to keep the government operating before funding expires. And what's the likelihood of the U.S. defaulting on its debt, according to one expert? The FBI investigating the reported assault of a female soldier by Afghan refugees. We bring you more on the Defense Department's plan to prevent sexual assault and hold offenders accountable. An NBA player for the Golden State Warriors is denied a religious exemption from getting the COVID-19 vaccine. He says he will continue to stick by his convictions. The Senate Armed Services Committee is currently grilling top U.S. military leaders on Afghanistan. It's the first time they will appear before Congress since the full withdrawal of U.S. troops. Set to appear are Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley. They will undoubtedly face questions about the chaotic nature of the withdrawal that led to the death of 13 U.S. service members. They'll also likely be pressed to explain the Biden administration's plan for counterterrorism missions there going forward, and be asked to answer for the failures that led to a drone strike that killed 10 civilians. The head of U.S. Central Command, General Frank McKenzie, is also set to appear at the hearing. Fort Bliss officials confirmed yesterday an FBI investigation is underway. It's into an alleged sexual assault of a female soldier by Afghan refugees. In response, some lawmakers are saying the refugee vetting process has been incomplete and rushed.
A spokeswoman for the 1st Armored Division, Lieutenant Colonel Annie Payne, told the Military Times the FBI is investigating the case. According to Payne, a small group of male evacuees allegedly assaulted a female service member at the Donna Ana complex in New Mexico just over a week ago. Payne told the outlet that in response, the base reestablished the buddy system, installed security cameras, and increased health and safety patrols in the village. The Deputy Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, said countering sexual assault in the military remains a top priority for her and President Biden. Hicks laid out her multi-pronged plan of action.
For instance, it contains 3 of our highest priority recommendations, including the establishment of the offices of special victim prosecutors, the creation of a full-time and specialized prevention workforce, and the implementation of full-time sexual assault response coordinator and sexual assault prevention and response victim advocate positions.
Fort Bliss is expected to house about 50,000 Afghan evacuees, and lawmakers have criticized the Biden administration for failing to vet the refugees after the U.S.'s chaotic exit from Afghanistan. For example, Representative Tom Tiffany tweeted, "Another day, another incident, this time a group assault on U.S. servicewoman. Thousands of Afghans have been brought to the U.S., many with no identity documents. Most were not translators. Vetting has been incomplete and rushed. POTUS owes Americans answers." Senator Ted Cruz and Representative Yvette Herrell shared similar views. The Pentagon's plan to address the problem comes after an independent review panel gave the DoD 80 recommendations earlier this year on curbing sexual assault in the military. Hicks says the military wants to move quickly on the issue.
And I think what we're trying to balance is the expert advice we've been given to make sure we do this well, that, the roots have to be deep. We can't just move quickly but shallowly and have the figment of action without having really well thought through processes for how we do this.
What's more, The Hill reported that earlier this week, an Afghan refugee at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, was charged for trying to engage in a sex act with a minor.
And speaking of the Afghanistan withdrawal, a Marine who sought accountability from the U.S. has been jailed. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller was fired in late August after posting a video on Facebook criticizing what he called the ineptitude of U.S. military leadership. He posted it the same day 13 U.S. troops and over 100 Afghans died in a terrorist attack outside Kabul's airport. Scheller is now in pretrial confinement, awaiting a preliminary hearing. Democrat leaders are back at the negotiating table today. Yesterday, the Senate voted against a Democrat bill to raise the borrowing limit and fund the government. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Vote the yeas are 48.
The Senate failed Monday to advance a measure to suspend the federal borrowing limit and avoid a partial government shutdown.
The motion is not agreed to.
It didn't get enough Republican votes, but Democrats say they'll keep trying.
Keeping the government open and preventing a default is vital to our country's future, and we'll be taking further action to prevent this from happening this week.
Democrats now have just a couple days to find another way to keep the government operating past Thursday, when current funding expires. Moderate Democrat Joe Manchin says it's a heavy lift to reach a deal by Thursday.
There's a lot in that bill, the 3.5, the reconciliation bill, tax codes, climate change, social reforms. There's a lot, and people need to know what's in it. So it's going to take a while.
Lawmakers also have to figure out how to raise the debt ceiling to avoid a default. Republicans saying if Democrats want to push through the $3.5 trillion spending package on their own, then they can raise the debt ceiling alone too.
There's no chance Republicans will help lift Democrats' credit limit so they can immediately steamroll through a socialist binge.
One expert told NTD Business Monday that the debt ceiling debate is all politics. Senior FX Street analyst Joseph Trevisani says it's unlikely the U.S. will default on its debt.
It is all politics. The chance of, I think, the U.S. and the government letting the U.S. default on its obligations is nil. It's not going to happen.
The White House says President Biden knows getting his agenda through Congress is hard, but he's determined to work with Democrat leadership to win the votes.
The president knows that. Nothing is guaranteed. He's going to work this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, to do everything he can to engage with Democrats, with people with a range of positions to get this agenda forward.
The House delayed a vote on the infrastructure bill until Thursday for more time to broker a deal on Biden's more sweeping social plan. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Thousands of the Haitian migrants who hope to reach the United States are crossing several countries in South and Central America. Here we see a group of illegal immigrants trekking through Honduras. So far in 2021, Honduras has registered nearly 11,000 foreign migrants, 10% of them minors. This, according to a press release from the Honduran government earlier this month. The head of Honduras's Directorate of Children, Adolescents, and Family says most of them that the country receives are Haitian. They make up 48% of immigrants. He added that 40% are from Cuba. The rest are from Nicaragua, Venezuela, Brazil, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. The already convicted spa shooter is pleading not guilty to charges in a second Georgia county. Robert Aaron Long appeared in a Fulton County court today. He's already been sentenced to life without parole, plus 35 years for deaths in Cherokee County. That was part of a plea deal with officials in the suburb north of Atlanta. 8 people died in the March shooting spree at 3 different Metro Atlanta spas. Fulton County prosecutors say the shootings qualify as hate crimes and added they will pursue the death penalty. Most of the victims were Asian women. R&B icon R. Kelly was convicted in a sex trafficking trial on Monday after decades avoiding allegations that he abused women and young women and girls. The singer is best known for his album, I Believe I Can Fly. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
A New York City jury found Kelly, 54, guilty Monday of all 9 counts, including a racketeering charge on their second day of deliberations. Attorney Gloria Allred represented several of the women who testified against R. Kelly. She said that Kelly is a predator who deserved to be convicted.
I have been practicing law for 47 years. During this time, I have pursued many sexual predators who have committed crimes against women and children. Of all the predators that I have pursued, however, Mr. Kelly is the worst.
Kelly was accused of running a Chicago-based criminal enterprise that recruited his accusers for non-consensual sex and mental torture. Kelly was also convicted of criminal counts accusing him of violating the Mann Act, a federal law that makes it illegal to take any woman or girl across state lines for criminal sexual activity. But he has supporters, too. They gathered outside the courthouse.
Because he's an innocent man, and he deserves his due process, and he's a very nice man. We are all his supporters. We flew to Chicago. We do rallies in Chicago, New York. We've been doing this for 2 years since he got arrested. We never give up on him, and we are never giving up on him. We're never going to give up on him.
Prosecutors alleged that Kelly had an entourage of managers and others who helped him meet girls and keep them obedient and quiet. 2 people have been charged with Kelly in a separate federal case pending in Chicago. Kelly's sentencing is scheduled for May 4th. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
State Department spokesman Ned Price is in quarantine after testing positive for COVID-19. Price tweeted that he started to notice symptoms Monday morning and took a test shortly afterward. He added that he's, quote, grateful for the protection from severe illness offered by safe and effective vaccines. Last week, Price participated in numerous meetings with the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, during the U.S. General Assembly. Blinken was tested Monday morning with a negative result. Officials say no one else in the traveling party is showing symptoms. Vaccine mandates remain a controversial topic, even extending into sports. Recently, an NBA player was denied a religious exemption, making him ineligible to play home games in San Francisco until he becomes vaccinated per the city requirement.
During Monday's Golden State Warriors Media Day press conference, Andrew Wiggins, an NBA professional basketball player for the Golden State Warriors, says he will continue to stand by his beliefs regarding the COVID vaccine.
I'm just going to keep fighting for what I believe, and whether it's one thing or another, get the vaccination or not get a vaccination, who knows? I'm just going to, keep fighting for what I believe, and what I believe is right. What's right to one person isn't right to the other, vice versa.
Wiggins has declined to discuss his vaccination status or about any conversations he has had with his team.
It's none of your business. That's what it comes down to. I don't ask you guys about your beliefs. I don't ask you guys what you think is right or wrong.
He says he has been given some rules to follow when in the team's facility, but did not disclose any further details. Wiggins sought a religious exemption for the vaccine. On September 24th, the NBA denied Wiggins' exemption request. He may be ineligible to play home games at the Chase Center in San Francisco until he meets the city's vaccination requirement. The Warriors' general manager, Bob Myers, said players' vaccination statuses are personal and private. The NBA does allow unvaccinated players to play this season, provided they test daily on practice, travel, and game days. Wiggins is expected to have a base salary of $31.5 million for the 2022 season. The 26-year-old is entering his 8th NBA season. The Warriors' first regular season home game is scheduled for October 21st against the Los Angeles Clippers.
Members of the Navy SEALs were informed they won't be deployed if they refuse to get a COVID-19 vaccine, and it doesn't matter if they've received a religious or medical exemption. Pay could also be affected. A law firm representing some SEALs and other service members say they were informed that SEALs are even getting sent home mid-deployment for refusing vaccination. But the vaccine policy does not apply to people who are allergic to vaccines or who would knowingly suffer medical reactions. A lawyer says these SEALs aren't anti-vaccine, they just aren't comfortable with the potential long-term effects. Some SEALs are avoiding the shot on natural immunity grounds, and a subset are Christians who don't want any medicines that are developed from aborted fetuses. The U.S. saw a rise in fatal violence last year. The FBI released its 2020 Uniform Crime Report yesterday. It showed the number of homicides increased nearly 30% from 2019. That's the largest single-year increase since the agency began tracking these crimes in the 1960s. Last year, there were more than 21,500 killings, a total not seen since the mid-1990s. While violent crimes increased by 5%, overall crimes decreased about 6%. The FBI collects statistics from law enforcement agencies across the country, but many did not participate. Several large cities, like New York, Chicago, and New Orleans, did not submit data. A city in California is planning to end flavored tobacco. Its goal is to keep children from becoming addicted smokers. Here's NTD's Eileen Eng with more.
San Jose City Council members and other leaders held a rally against flavored tobacco, including menthol. They are concerned about the future of their children.
We just need to ensure that our young people are protected so that they have the ability as adults to make good health choices that they will not be regretting decades from now.
They have been working on banning flavored tobacco products for over a year.
Yeah, I'm a mom here in San Jose, and so this policy is really important to me. I think that we need to look out for our kids as a community. You know, our teachers can't do this alone. We as parents can't do this alone. We really need our leaders to step up and really protect all of our kids here in San Jose.
When I was growing up, I started smoking when I was 15 years old. And by the time I was 18, I was smoking 3 packs a day. I stopped smoking when my oldest son was born. And I stopped because I didn't want to be the example to my children.
Some of the flavors are the same flavors that you'd find in candy, which is very attractive to young people. And the studies have shown that if you start smoking at a younger age, in high school or even as young as middle school, then it's highly likely that you're going to become a lifelong smoker.
According to the Santa Clara County Public Health website, 1 in 10 kids use tobacco products. About 90% of adult smokers say they started smoking before 18. The most common age to try a cigarette is 12. In California, 96% of high school kids who vape use flavors.
If you take a look at the sale of menthol specifically, it is really geared towards and marketed towards the black and brown community. And so that's been over 6 years that has been targeted strictly towards them. And so we're not wanting the city council to ban the sale of everything except menthol because that means we're still targeted. We want to make sure that all of it is banned.
In April, the FDA announced it will make efforts to ban menthol cigarettes to reduce youth addiction and address health impacts. Then in August, doctors from the American Medical Association urged the FDA to ban new menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars. If the ordinance passes, the city of San Jose will ban all flavored tobacco, including menthol cigarettes.
The San Jose City Council will vote on the ordinance on Tuesday. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Customs officials say an illegal immigrant teenager from Mexico was arrested for allegedly setting wildfires in California. Agents say when they found him near the fire he's accused of starting last week, that they saw him starting another fire. They were not able to put out the fires immediately. The accused arsonist was identified as an 18-year-old male Mexican national. He was arrested for illegally entering the United States and had been transported to a processing location. The Bureau of Land Management is investigating the wildfires as arson. Authorities located the fires in the Jacumba Wilderness. The area spans about 31,000 acres on a remote stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border. Families sickened and forced from their homes after the nation's largest known natural gas leak have reached a settlement with a utility company. But some residents say it's not enough. The settlement is with Southern California Gas and its parent company. They will pay $1.8 billion to compensate 35,000 people. The Aliso Canyon leak led to the largest known release of methane in U.S. history and was blamed for affecting thousands of residents near the San Fernando Valley. They fled their homes to escape a sulfurous stench and the headaches, nausea, and nosebleeds it caused. The 2015 blowout took nearly 4 months to contain, and some residents are saying they still don't have confidence the facility is safe and they want it closed down. The New York City Council is considering a bill that would allow permanent residents to vote in municipal elections. The non-citizens would need to have lived in the city for at least 30 days. NTD's Jason Perry attended an event with council members who opposed the bill.
We are here in New York City, right outside of City Hall Park, where people have gathered in a rally to stand against a bill that will allow non-citizens to vote in New York City. And that bill already has a lot of support.
But to open up our elections to non-citizens is a step too far.
Let's say up to 900,000 foreign nationals would get the right to vote. Imagine that. They could sway elections and not be a citizen of the United States. That's absurd.
Councilman Robert Holden says there could be other motives behind the bill.
Now, I won my race, my first race in 2017, by 137 votes. So you see what a bill like this you can have foreign nationals affecting an election and determining an election of where really they don't live. They've only been here 30 days. So this is a very dangerous bill. So if it ever gets a foothold, God help us.
Chairman of the New York State Republican Committee, Nick Langworthy, also spoke against non-citizens being able to vote.
We have to have the rule of law first and foremost. I mean, and this goes back to our opposition to why, New York City is a sanctuary city. I mean, we have federal immigration laws. There's a lot of people that came here and followed the right path and became, full American citizens. With that comes the right to vote. We're not looking to deny anybody, but citizenship matters. There's not two tracks to citizenship.
Those in support of the bill say if non-citizens are able to vote, it will allow officials to be elected who will better represent the residents of that district. Although this bill to allow non-citizens to vote has a lot of support, others are saying it goes directly against the state constitution and therefore it wouldn't be able to pass. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
Governor Ron DeSantis has directed Florida's Secretary of State to open an investigation into Facebook. He wants to know if the company violated the state's election laws. The Republican governor cited a Wall Street Journal report in his letter. The report alleges the social media company has given millions of celebrities, politicians, and other high-profile users preferential treatment. The report found that these users are exempt from some or all of the big tech company's rules, but it did not apply to every position or candidate equally. DeSantis said that if the report is true, Facebook has violated Florida law to influence the outcome of state and local political races. DeSantis directed the Florida Secretary of State's office to use all legal means to uncover any violations, including subpoenas and witness interviews. Facebook is pausing its plans to create a children's version of the popular photo-sharing platform Instagram. This, after the effort drew bipartisan pushback from dozens of attorneys general. NTD's Arlene Richardson has the story.
Anna Mazzari, head of Instagram, announced in a blog post Monday that the Facebook-owned company is pausing the development of its Instagram for 10 to 12-year-olds. Mazzari said the company still believes building the children's version is the right thing to do, but is pausing the work to consult with parents, experts, and policymakers, as well as demonstrate the value of the project. Earlier this year, a bipartisan coalition of 44 attorneys general urged Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg to abandon plans to create the platform. They noted that studies have shown that using social media can be detrimental to the health and well-being of children. The attorneys general also said children don't have a developed understanding of privacy and pointed to risk of online predators. Mazzari addressed some of the concerns, saying the children's Instagram will require parental permission to join and will have age-appropriate content and features. Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn is calling the pause a step in the right direction to ensuring a safe environment, but says there's still much work to be done. Blackburn, along with Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal, is conducting an investigation into Facebook's knowledge of the negative impact of Instagram on teenage users. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Coming up, military veterans perform archaeological work at a Revolutionary War battlefield site in New York, enjoying a renewed sense of camaraderie and mission. Find out more in just a minute.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Military veterans performed archaeological work this month at a Revolutionary War battlefield site in New York, uncovering historic artifacts and renewing a sense of camaraderie and mission. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with the story.
This archaeological dig at the Saratoga National Historical Park revealed evidence from the Second Battle of Saratoga, but it also benefited the veterans working here. Some of these veterans live with post-traumatic stress. Others contend with physical injuries.
We really want to focus more on the abilities of our veterans rather than the disabilities. We've seen that veterans are actually very good at archaeology when they're properly trained. So we want to take the skills that they have from the military and teach them how to do this really well, because we've seen that mental health aspect come in because of the sense of pride in doing this mission properly.
Bjorn Bruckshaw, 38, is an Army veteran injured in a roadside bombing in Iraq. He's among 15 veterans taking part in the dig through American Veterans Archaeological Recovery, an organization that helps service members transition into civilian life.
Anybody who suffers PTSD and TBI or who was wounded or suffer any form of disability from the military is always going to continue to transition, because you always have that in the back of your mind. So that's why these groups exist, is to help you continue to keep transitioning to hopefully get back to where you are.
The Second Battle of Saratoga occurred on October 7, 1777. The American victory is credited with persuading France to lend crucial support to the fight for independence.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Like I said, I'm a huge Revolutionary War history fan. So to know that, you know, the British forces were here and I'm standing right where they were fighting back and forth makes me giddy, I guess you can say.
The pandemic last year put a hold on work here, but crews with shovels and metal detectors were back this month and finishing up this week. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
As autumn approaches, the Central Valley in California held its annual community event over the weekend. It draws in thousands each year. We hear more from NTD's David Lamb.
Here at the Clovis Fest weekend in Fresno County, they start off each morning with hot air balloons. So as you can see, these balloons are the main attraction that bring in locals to the area.
As you can see, the community really likes coming out. We drove 50 miles to come here today just to see these balloons and to have a little bit of a lift, if you will, just like the balloons are. And you have everything from professionals to hobbyists.
You'd be surprised how many people are talking to you when you're up here. You can hear them very well, even at like 1,800 feet. You can still have a conversation with somebody. Sound travels up. I can hear dogs and roosters and you name it up at 3,500 feet. It's incredible.
Fernandez says she's been a balloonist for almost 6 years. She tells us how intense the fire can get compared to a 2,000 square feet home.
This is a 105 cubic balloon, and it has about 7 of those homes in it. And I can heat all 7 in about 15 seconds. Kabam!
Over at the downtown area, dozens of vendors can be seen with jump houses and a petting zoo.
I love watching the little children riding the ponies. They get so excited and they love it. It's a lot of fun. It really is.
This is Clovis Fest's 46th annual event. A variety of craft vendors, festival foods, and cultural performances take the stage.
I saw it, I told my parents I wanted to try it out because it looked fun, and then I did it, and I fell in love with it, and this is how I ended up here.
The dancers wear clan outfits. One of the dancers says they have machine-made and handmade attire.
And it is called Mongsai, so we have stripes on our outfit, and we also have colorful pom-poms on our hats, and the stitching here is called Bando.
Another dancer says they prepare about 4 to 5 hours before an event.
Woke up at 5 this morning just to get ready for this.
She said her culture originated from China and then migrated to Laos and Thailand.
Even though that land didn't belong to us, we wanted some place, to just belong, to call a place home, to call people family. And we also have our coins, which originated from France.
Clovis Fest was closed last year due to the pandemic, but locals are glad it's back.
And we're just happy to get closer to the back to normal, to see the whole community come out and do something that they've been doing for the past 40 years, right?
Reporting in Clovis, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Up next, 39 workers have been trapped in a Canadian mine since the weekend. The company says rescue efforts are underway. And Germany's Social Democratic Party claimed a narrow win in the landmark election Yet the results failed to shed light on the country's future. Stay tuned to find out more.
If you're like most of us, you're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
Are you looking for a news source that does not spin the truth, doesn't push any false narratives, and instead presents you with the facts and lets you make up your own mind? Then go to readepic.com and try the Epic Times newspaper for yourself. It's pure honest journalism that's based in traditional values.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
According to the South Korean Defense Ministry, North Korea has launched what's believed to be a short-range ballistic missile. The missile landed off the east coast of the Korean peninsula. It was fired around 6:40 a.m. local time today, according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff. South Korea's Defense Ministry calls the missile launch regrettable. Japanese state media reported the projectile appears to have landed outside Japan's exclusive economic zone. An accident on Sunday left 39 miners trapped underground in a Canadian mine. That's the word from Brazilian mining company Vale. Rescue efforts are currently underway. Here's more.
Brazilian mining firm Vale SA says some 39 of its mine workers have been trapped underground since Sunday. The accident occurred at the Totten mine in Sudbury, Canada, when a vehicle transporting the workers was taken offline.
We had a large piece of equipment flung underneath the conveyance system, and it dislodged, causing damage to the shaft and making the conveyance system inoperable.
After that, employees went to refuge stations and have kept communications with the company with access to food and water. Vale said employees will use an alternate exit to leave the copper, nickel, and precious metals mine. As of early Tuesday morning, local newspapers reported that the first of the trapped miners had returned to the surface.
Just in, Vale SA said 30 of its employees trapped in a Canadian mine returned to surface early this morning. The remainder are on their way. Vale said all rescued workers are in good health. Mexico is suffering from what some are calling an epidemic of disappearances. The government says over 85,000 people have disappeared or gone missing over the past 15 years.
On sidewalks, plazas, streets, and highways around Mexico, the posters are everywhere. These are the faces of the missing, tens of thousands of mainly young people from the lower and middle classes who have gone missing in the last decade.
¿Dónde están nuestros hijos? ¿Dónde están?
Where are our children? The question has been asked thousands of times, but the answer remains elusive. According to a government report published earlier this year, more than 85,000 people were reported missing or disappeared in Mexico between 2006 and April 2021. A journalist association focused on the disappearances puts the figure at 92,000.
Herencia muy dolorosa.
President Andrés Manuel López Obrador calls this challenge a painful heritage for Mexico.
Tenemos una epidemia de desapariciones.
Others, like this children's rights advocate, say Mexico is facing an epidemic of disappearances. Few other cases have made more headlines than the 43 students at a rural teachers' college who disappeared in 2014.
Y les aseguro.
After years of uncertainty, President López Obrador met with the parents of the missing after he was elected in 2018, and 2 days after taking office, promised that there will be no impunity. 7 years later, the parents still say they're not giving up.
Créeme que lo voy a traer. Yo lo voy a traer.
Believe me, I will bring him back, he said. A hope that is shared by the parents of all 43.
Germany's center-left Social Democrats have claimed a narrow win over Chancellor Merkel's party in the federal election. Despite its poor vote result, conservative rivals said they remain determined to fight on. Let's look at the details.
Germany's center-left Social Democratic Party, known as SPD, has claimed victory in the federal elections, edging out the country's conservatives in Sunday's vote. SPD leader Olaf Scholz said voters have provided a mandate for a change in government. At a news conference Monday, Scholz anticipated relations with the United States under his leadership.
The transatlantic partnership is of essence for us in Germany and for a government that will be led by me. And so you can rely on a continuity in this question.
Armin Laschet, the candidate from Merkel's center-right party, CDU-CSU, disputed Scholz's claim, saying the election didn't give the Social Democrats or anyone else a clear mandate. Yet he sounded less confident following the union's worst-ever performance in a national election.
There's no question that this result cannot, must not, and will not satisfy the union. We managed to catch up in the final spurt and prevented red, green, but at the same time, there are painful losses.
Laschet has vowed to kick off a renewal of the union at all levels, whether it ends up in government or opposition. According to a top analyst from the Allensbach Opinion Survey Institute, the election result reflects high volatility in voter sentiment.
At the start of 2020, the coronavirus arrived and support for the union went up from less than 30% to almost 40% within 4 weeks. And it remained stable on that level for a long time until the start of this year when, again within 4 weeks, support went into rapid decline.
This was followed by a sharp rise in support for the Social Democrats in the summer. The election has failed to set a clear direction for the country's future. Both sides are seeking to form the next coalition with smaller parties, as neither receive over 30% of the vote. Merkel's outgoing government will remain in power until a successor is sworn in, a process that could take weeks or months.
Britain's transport minister pleaded with motorists today to stop filling up old water bottles with fuel at gas stations. That's after panic buying left pumps dry across major cities and prompted the government to put the army on standby.
The UK is putting army drivers on standby to help out as a fuel supply crisis drags on. Up to 90% of filling stations have run dry in regions up and down the country. That after a shortage of truck drivers hit supplies, sparking panic buying. Long lines have formed at the few outlets which still have petrol, with fights between car drivers breaking out in some places. Now the British Medical Association is calling for health workers to get priority access to fuel to ensure that hospitals aren't left without doctors and nurses. The crisis is also becoming a big concern for anyone who depends on vehicles to work.
It's massive. Friends of mine have not been able to come to work this morning because they're so low, they can't risk coming out and running out. It's really, really worrying.
Ministers, oil companies and petrol stations all say there is no shortage of fuel. It's the combination of a lack of truckers and panic buying that has drained the system. Now, army drivers could help fill some of the gap, but not very much. Hauliers estimate the country is short of around 100,000 truckers. Many left as a result of Brexit, while lockdowns hampered training for new drivers. However, with so many cars now filled up, the Petrol Retailers Association predicts that the supply crunch should ease in the coming days.
A sculpture by Michaelangelo, known as the Deposition, is finally unveiled to the public. That's after undergoing an intense 2-year restoration process. NTD's Arian Pastar has the story.
The restoration of Michelangelo's Pieta Bandini is now complete. The repair process has offered new perspectives on the analysis of the sculpture and a better understanding of its complex history. The Pieta was carved by Michelangelo in his later years during the 16th century and was left unfinished by an 80-year-old Michelangelo. According to Monsignor Timothy Verdon, it is the work of an artist who was facing the last stage of his life.
As a personal expression of his religious spirit, it was meant for his tomb, and he included his self-portrait. So it's a deeply personal work that he intended to express his spirit even after he died.
Verdon also points to a more philosophical hurdle, one that might have influenced Michelangelo to leave the sculpture unfinished.
He tells us in one of his sonnets, written in the same years, he had begun to doubt that the art to which he had devoted his life was a sufficient justification for that life. He no longer believed fully in what he was doing.
The restoration of the Pieta Bandini was done in an open worksite. The board of the Opera del Duomo Museum made the decision in order to offer visitors the opportunity to follow the process minute by minute. The restoration project was also an example of international cooperation. Non-profit foundation Friends of Florence provided some of the funding. The work of art was originally meant to decorate his tomb in Rome, but the Pieta is part of the heritage the artist left to the city of Florence. Michelangelo's remains rest in the Basilica of Santa Croce, together with other great Italian artists, poets and scientists. Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
Actor Daniel Craig will step down from the fictional international spy business next week with the release of his latest and last Bond movie, No Time to Die.
Daniel Craig is the longest-serving 007 with a license to kill since 2006. Now, after 15 years, Craig is ready for a martini, shaken, not stirred.
We saw with Daniel Craig, what we continue to see with Daniel Craig, but particularly in the first two films, Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, is an actor's actor committing entirely to this role, not as some sort of parodic centerpiece in the way Roger Moore did, where it's high parody, hijinks, all that kind of stuff.
Bond's greatest role issue has been age. At 42, Pierce Brosnan was the oldest to do his first Bond. Roger Moore was in his late 50s by the time he finished his last Bond, View to a Kill. All have left their mark on the character.
There's an amazing intensity in his eyes where it's like he wants to scream, but he breathes very heavily, and you see that constraint. And in some ways, this is my kind of go-to scene when talking about this kind of thing, because Bond is nothing if not a kind of constrained idea or emblem of kind of British masculinity, this sort of stiff upper lipness.
The title holder for the best Bond of all time will always be hotly contested, but Sean Connery was the first, and for some, the best.
Obviously, we're looking at something like Skyfall for the most commercially successful Bond film of all time. But I'd have to say, in terms of sheer Bond mania, in terms of the sheer impact of it as a kind of cultural icon, it must be the middle films of the Connery era. Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, Thunderball.
There has been intense speculation about whether the character can remain the same and still appeal to new generations of moviegoers. But audiences will have to wait in anticipation for the next Bond. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
On today's health segment, we look at 8 healthy foods that are important for your liver. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Cleansing the liver is a great idea, and it's usually promoted in the spring or summer. But it's also important to eat well to support your liver throughout the year. Here are some of the most important nutrients to support a healthy liver and a healthy you. Number 1, fresh vegetable juices. A good combination would be 25% apple and or beets and or carrots and 75% greens with lemon or lime. Number 2, chlorophyll-rich superfoods. Wheat or barley grass juice powder, chlorella and spirulina, and wild blue-green algae have in many cases proven to be useful in clearing up a sluggish liver. Number 3, garlic and onions. Garlic contains allicin, which is a sulfur-based compound required by the liver for effective detoxification. Garlic helps the liver rid the body of mercury, certain food additives, and hormones. Number 4, fresh vegetables. Fresh, raw vegetables, especially dark leafy green vegetables such as parsley, kale, watercress, alfalfa, and collard greens are great for the liver. Orange, yellow, purple, and red coloured fruits and vegetables are also good, as they contain living enzymes, fibre, vitamin C, natural antibiotic substances, and anti-cancer phytonutrients. Number 5, sub-acid fruits. Apples, papaya, grapes, and all the berries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, and raspberries are all high in antioxidants, which help to protect the liver from high levels of free radicals. Number 6, bitter foods. The bitterness of foods such as dandelion, arugula, endive, sorrel, and watercress help to stimulate the bile flow within the liver. Number 7, herbs. Dill, caraway seeds, garlic, onions, turmeric, and cayenne are easy to use in your food and can help protect your liver. And number 8, raw fats such as nuts, seeds, and avocados. These are good food sources of polyunsaturated fats and monosaturated fats, all less harmful to the liver than saturated fats. The key is not to overeat, even on good raw fats.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV, type in your zip code, and find all the ways